Again, thank you everyone for joining our webinar on how to integrate Google Classroom with our lesson planner Planboard. So for today's session, I had mentioned in the chat before, but just want to make sure everyone's on the same page. Please make sure to put your questions in the Q&A. That's where our team will be looking to make sure to get your questions answered throughout the session. So please do take advantage of that, and we'll go ahead and jump in and get started. Before we get started, I want to take a quick moment to introduce myself. My name is Michael Machinsky, and I am an English teacher from Ontario, Canada. I taught English and instrumental music at the high school level for many years and am now part of our school success team at Chalk. A little fun fact about me, at least I hope it's fun, is that I also have a background in dance. I spent several years doing ballroom and folk dance in a regional dance group and performed at a few national festivals in North America and Europe. It has been a while. I mainly just dance in my kitchen now, but I thought that'd be a fun thing to share, just a little bit more about me. For our webinar today, I will begin by giving you a brief overview of Chalk and the benefits of using a digital lesson planner for your daily teaching. I will show you what a fully set up planner in Chalk looks like, and then take you through our setup process for our free accounts. We'll go over how to integrate your Google Classroom with our lesson planner, and there will be time at the end of the session for any questions that you have about our Chalk applications. I do just want to stress that in this webinar, we will be reviewing how to use Chalk as a digital planning solution for you as an educator, but we'll not be going over how to set up your individual Google Classroom. Rather, this webinar will focus on how to integrate your classroom with Chalk, and we will be sharing the webinar following the presentation, but any additional questions or concerns can be sent to support@chalk.com. For those of you who already have Chalk accounts and are joining us, we will be going over the setup process. So the first part of the webinar may be information you already know, but I encourage you to follow along and stick around to the end of the webinar, as we will have a small surprise for our attendees. If during the setup process you feel like stepping away or grabbing a cup of coffee, absolutely feel free to do so. A little background on Chalk. We are a curriculum mapping and lesson planning platform that helps align educators and schools. So Chalk first started off as a lesson planner for teachers when our CEO, William, found that his teachers spent several hours creating lesson plans and aligning standards. And with his background in technology, he thought to simplify the process of planning. So we created Planboard, our primary application. It is an online lesson planner and gradebook that is used by educators worldwide, allowing you to bring all of your lesson planning into an online environment, dramatically cutting down on planning time, especially year-over-year planning. And it is web-based and accessible through your browser, but we also have some mobile applications available for Android and iOS. There are many benefits to using Planboard over a traditional lesson planner. You can create rich lesson plans for your school year and save valuable lesson planning time by reusing plans from class to class or year to year, making changes as necessary. Primary feature of Planboard is our curriculum standards tracking and progression tools. We have a database of tens of thousands of curriculum standard sets available for attaching to your subjects and lessons, so you can track how well you are covering your school's curriculum applications. There are options for sharing the resources you've created in Planboard with your colleagues, administrators, your students. One of the things that you can do is publicly share the content you've created in the planner. So for example, if you need to leave your day's lessons with a substitute teacher, there are options to share that data, including any attachments, standards. All of that will be readily available. And we have also been expanding our Google integration, which includes options for sharing your lesson content directly to your students through Google Classroom. Included with your Chalk account is our gradebook application, Markboard, which allows you to record your learning progression with your students and even send grade data from Chalk to Google Classroom so that students are kept up to date on their progress. And if we just take a quick look at what Google says about us, we are the #1 digital lesson planner application, and we're used by over 500,000 educators worldwide. So thanks, Google. Really do appreciate that. And our free teacher accounts include access to our lesson planning, gradebook, and attendance apps. But we offer a paid individual subscription called Chalk Gold that includes access to premium features. So some functionality, such as sharing, has options in the free version, but to take full advantage of all of the sharing features we have, you will need to upgrade. In terms of the Google Classroom integration, some features are available to all free accounts, and some features are included in our Chalk Gold subscription, and I will be sure to point those out throughout our presentation. So if you'll join me in exploring our lesson planner, what we can do is we're actually going to go through step by step how you can get set up and running with your own Chalk account. And I would encourage you, if you're interested, to follow along on your end. You can just go to chalk.com, and if you click teachers up at the top, or just go to chalk.com/planboard, it'll bring you to this page that I'm looking at right now. So you can go in here and then use the sign up for free option, which is what I'm going to take you through shortly here. Before we go through the setup process, I do just want to take a moment to show you what a completed planner may look like. So I have this account here that has all classes set up and lesson content created. And within Planboard, I can view my lessons in a few ways. So typically, the most common way to use it for short-term planning would be the day and week view options. So I can see all of my lesson content for all the subjects that I'm going to be addressing today, or I could view it in the week view as I showed you earlier. You can also use the unit planner if you want to take a closer look at one subject at a time and just be able to quickly switch between different lessons on the fly and make your changes as necessary. So let's take a look at our week view again, just briefly here. As you can see, I have multiple subjects scheduled and they're all differentiated here. And you can edit any of your lessons like you would in any text editor, such as a Google Doc. And you can also embed images or even videos directly into your lesson content and then have that all available there. You can add attachments to your lessons as well. So any worksheets for students to access and complete. And it's very easy to connect files from Google Drive as well. So for example, here I have this music lesson here, just roughly done up. And something that I've done to connect my materials is add a repertoire folder from Google Drive that I've connected to all of my music lessons. So if it's just a file that links to all of our pieces that our class might be currently working on. And it's really easy for me to just open that up if I need to look up any sheet music, or if I share this lesson with my students, then they'll be able to access these resources easily as well. You can also see that I've attached curriculum standards to these lessons. So I know what content expectations my students will be covering on these given days, which is incredibly useful for making sure that your lesson content is aligned with your school or district. We won't be going over all of the available features within Planboard, but I just wanted to give you a bit of a sneak peek of the potential within Planboard to create and organize your lesson content. But let's go ahead and get started with setting up our Chalk account. So starting off from chalk.com/planboard, or you can reach this page by clicking the teachers button at the top. I'm going to use this sign up for free button, and we're going to start creating an account. So when you jump in here and you start creating your account, the first thing it's going to ask is for some pretty basic information that you might see in any other service that you sign up for online. The main thing that we're asking for is an email. So I'm just going to set this up here and a quick password. And you're going to create a password that goes along with your email. So once you've used this to create your account, moving forward, you will use this email and password to log in and access your account. So make sure you take a note of what you're using here because it is tied to that email specifically. Generally, a lot of teachers rather use their school email, but you can use your personal email as well. And after your account is created, you can actually link it to your Google account directly so that you can use your Google account as a login method. And I can show you how to do that a bit later in the presentation. But from here, I'm going to click continue, and it's going to bring me to the next step of the setup process. From here, getting your planner set up requires three main steps: creating your school's semester or school year, your subjects, and then scheduling the subjects into the planner. You can think of this process kind of like building your planner from the ground up so that it reflects your personal schedule. The first step is to create our semester. So by default, the semester here, it's going to set itself up as being the entire school year. One of the easiest ways to kind of think about this is you're really just kind of creating this bucket that everything is going to go into for the coming year. So what we want to really do is specify, when does this school year start and when does it end? And here it's just as simple as clicking on the start date and selecting the appropriate one. So I'm going to say, I'll do this for this current school year. I'll say it started in August there, and then we'll end in June. And we can just adjust the dates really easily there. One thing I want to just quickly touch on here while we're on this page is, I know that in the past, some folks might look at this and see that it says semester and be inclined to just create it for a semester at a time. I would only recommend that if you are very much semester based and you never have any classes that run the full year. For most everyone, it makes the most sense to set up for the entire school year, because that's going to allow you to have your lessons kind of flow throughout the whole year. So say if you're working on your lessons and it's November, December time range, and you know, things need to be pushed back and moved into the January, uh, winter, after the winter break, it is useful for being able to do things like shift your lessons back and forth, or copying to different days within the same subject. And especially when it comes to reusing content year over year, it will be very useful to have everything set up as one full school year. It just makes a lot of those things simpler and cleaner. So we generally recommend to set it up for the entire school year, as I've done here. And if you're someone who has created your account or jumped ahead to the next step, and you're saying, oh no, I already set it up as a semester, don't worry, you can always come back and make adjustments. But we've set the start date here, the end date, and then the last thing we're going to set is our teaching days. So by default, this is going to be Monday through Friday. And generally speaking, that applies to most everyone, so you shouldn't need to change any of that. But if you teach special programs on Saturdays or Sundays, or maybe you only teach certain days of the week, you can click the boxes to adjust the available teaching days that you will need for this school year. And then once you're done, you can just go ahead and click save and continue, as I will do now. And now that we've created that bucket, like I was talking about before, which is our school year, we're going to now populate it with the subjects that we want to teach. So to get started, we're going to click the blue plus button here in the top right corner. And you'll see a few options, but the two main ones are a subject and a non-teaching block. So subjects are for any of the classes that you would want to create lesson content for. So things like math, science, homeroom, visual arts, physical education. As well, you could be using them for alternative meetings that you might want to be able to plan or take notes for. For example, a school club, that could be useful as well. But that would all fall under the subject category. Non-teaching blocks are for things that you don't want to plan any content for, but you want to have appear on your schedule. So like lunch, recess, prep periods, or morning routines, just something that you want to put in your schedule so that you are reminded of when those events occur. I'm going to start by creating an example of each of these options, starting with a subject. So once I click subject, the first thing it's going to ask us to do is put in a title for our subject at the top. So I'm just going to type math. You can be more specific if you want to type grade 4 math, or if morning math. Obviously, the title is up to your preferences. And then on the far right here, we have the option to adjust the color of the subject as well. And we have a few different options here of pre-populated colors. The one thing I'll briefly mention here as well, there is an option to add custom colors. This is part of the Chalk Gold Premium option that I had mentioned earlier. So if you are interested in upgrading so that you can choose any color that you want for your subjects, you can go ahead and select that option or look into that at a later time. For now, I'm just going to select one of our preset options and move on from there. So now, as I mentioned earlier, within Chalk, you have access to tens of thousands of standards in our database. And here's where we can search for and add them to our subjects. This is purely optional and not necessary to use any of the lesson planning features in Chalk, but it is highly beneficial if you intend to track standards across your lessons and have an idea of what your coverage is like throughout the school year. So when we're clicking into search for standards, because we have so many standards across a lot of different states, a lot of different provinces, a lot of different countries, you'll always want to start by specifying where you're looking for standards from, like what region. We're based in Ontario, Canada, so I'm going to start by typing Ontario and then the grade level. So let's say grade 4, and then the subject. So we have a couple of grade 4 math sets here. We have the older one from 2005 and the recently updated one from the past year. And I can just select it there and it will apply that standard set to our subject. I'll go through another one quickly here. So let's say I'm looking for, my region is Florida. And I could actually see the one that I'm looking for right now, but just for the process, I would then type in the the grade level and then the subject, and it will just narrow it down a little bit. But I can add that as well. And as you can see, I can add multiple sets to the same subject. There's no limit, so you can add as many or as few standard sets as is necessary. And you can always come back to the subject page and add these standard sets if you need them in the future as well. If in going through this process, you're coming in and you're searching with either your state or your province or other region, followed by your grade level and then the subject area, and you're still having trouble finding the right standards, we encourage you to take advantage of our live chat option here in the bottom right corner. So if you just click there and start a chat, then you can reach one of our team members and they can first look through and verify that we don't have available the standard set that you're looking for. And if that can be confirmed, then there are steps that you can take in order to get them added to Chalk, and they'll be able to go through those with you as well. One thing that we generally ask is if you know for sure that we don't have the right set in there, the more we hear from teachers, the more we know what's missing or is incorrect and what should be added. So that is really helpful for us for prioritizing what we can do to make sure that you have access to the standards you need in our system. So please feel free to connect with us on our live chat. It is available from Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Another option that we have here is editing our sections. So sections are for when you are teaching the same subject to multiple groups of students. Perhaps you teach a morning math class and an afternoon math class, or different cohorts of the same class. Maybe one for they alternate remotely. You can have them split as different sections within the same subject. So the lesson content would be separated on your schedule, but you can still have the same curriculum sets and unit material shared between them. If this is something that applies to you, you can add more sections by clicking this button here. And you can also edit their names and their color really easily. For now, I'm just going to save this subject and move on to creating a non-teaching block. So as mentioned, this is an option to add a block of time into your planner that you're not going to create lessons for. It's very much just a placeholder that's going to let you see that something is happening at that point in time. So I'm going to click non-teaching block. And let's just say that this is our break for lunch. So I can enter a title and choose a color, and that's really all that's necessary. We're not going to be attaching any standards. We just need a name and some sort of color to differentiate. So if you may notice that there is a little different visual to this. It's just the colored line with the white, and that's to differentiate that this is not a subject that we are creating lessons for. So the colors are just a little different there. And I'll click save, and I'm just done creating that there. Now, an option that will be highly beneficial to most of us here today is the option to import your classes from Google Classroom. So this is one of the free options that I mentioned earlier that we have available within Chalk. If you already have your classes created in Google Classroom, you can use this option to very quickly and easily bring those classes over into your Chalk account. And that will just pre-populate and create all of your subjects for you. So once we click this option, it's going to ask us to sign in with our Google account. And I already have mine ready to go here. And it's just going to ask you to verify that you are granting Chalk access to this information from your Google account. So I'm going to click allow. And then you will see this screen, which will have all of the classes that you have created within your Google Classroom. So from here, you can select the ones that you want to import. And then once we go to the next step, we have the option of making any edits to how we want them to appear within our planner. So we can edit the titles or change the colors. As well, if you have classes that you want to group together as sections within the same subject, you can click the boxes here on the side, and you'll get the option to group these classes. So what that will do is it will connect them as different sections of the same subject. And from here, you can still change the titles or the colors as necessary. I'm just going to ungroup and change these colors as well, just so it's a little bit more differentiated. And then once we click import, it's just going to bring them directly in here, and our subjects are now created. And if we wanted to add any curriculum sets to our subjects that we've imported, we can just easily do so here. But you can always come back and edit this later. And we can see that we have a linked icon here. So this just means that our subject that we've created here is linked to our class in Google Classroom, and we are now able to share information between the two easily. If you are setting up your Chalk account before you have your classes already in Google Classroom, or maybe in the case that you get a new class later and want to connect it to a subject that you've already created in Chalk, you can do so by just clicking this icon here. And it will give you the option to log into your Google Classroom and connect those subjects manually here. For now, I have finished created the subjects that I need. So, and I'm going to move on to the next step. And for Planboard here, which is our lesson planner, we are going to move on to creating our timetable. Pardon me. So the next step, now that we have our subjects created, is we are going to schedule them so that we can start creating lesson plans. And the first thing that we see when we get to the screen is kind of this blank state. It's letting me just kind of add things into this right side of the screen. And right now we are looking at a week. So it has day A, B, through to E. And it's essentially our 5 days that we set up as our teaching days. And then we also have a weekend. And what we're doing here is setting up the schedule that is going to repeat itself for the entire school year that we set up earlier. So whatever I put in here is going to repeat itself over and over and over again from August until the end of the semester that I set in June. So some of you might have a weekly schedule where you have a different class or series of classes on each day of the week, and it's consistent week to week. Or you might have the same thing every day. We know that there are a lot of different ways that you can build your planner and have it reflect throughout the account. So if you think about it in terms of a paper planner, you're essentially building how your pages will be organized for the school year. And the first thing we're going to do is adjust our rotation schedule at the top of the page here. The easiest way to think about it is to ask yourself the question, how long does it take for my schedule to repeat itself? So if every week is the same, say you have the same series of classes on Monday, and then different set on Tuesday, and then something else on Wednesday, but then everything repeats itself again starting the following Monday, then that would be a weekly rotation, because it takes a week for your schedule to begin repeating itself. If every day is the same, so let's say you are teaching the same classes in the same order at the same times Monday through Friday, or whatever your teaching days are, then that would be a daily schedule. And as you can see, when we select it, it gives us different options on how we're going to be able to build this. For a daily schedule, we only need to plan one day at a time, versus a weekly schedule where we'll want to schedule classes for each day of the week. And we know that there are a lot of different options and that different schools have quite varying schedules. So we have a number of options here available for different rotation um, options. I'm going to create a 2 days schedule just for this demonstration. Some folks might call it an A-B schedule, but the idea here is that I'm going to be rotating between 2 different schedules. So on day A, it's Monday. On day B might be a Tuesday, and then back to a day A on Wednesday. And it's just going to keep repeating like that throughout the whole school year. So I'm going to go ahead and select 2 days as my rotation schedule. And now we're going to start scheduling our subjects. So the first one I'm going to do is math. Right here where it says unscheduled, or the blue plus button, once you click it, it will give you this window where you can start to schedule your classes. And it defaults at some times, but you can feel free to change them by just clicking in and selecting the appropriate times. I'm going to leave them at the default for now. And then we're going to select the days in the rotation that we want to insert this class. So for example, if we just want it on day A, we can select that. I'm going to move it into day B as well. And maybe I have it in a different time for day B, but it's often easy to just schedule it for all days if necessary, and then you can actually move it around after. So I'll show you what that is like. Once we have this ready, I can click Schedule Class, and it will appear in my planner here. So let's say, for example, that Tuesday or my day B, my math class is actually a little bit later in the day. What I can do is just click on the box that I've created, and I can drag it down into a new time slot. And hopefully you can see there that you can see the times change as I'm moving it. As well, if you click near the bottom of the box where these 2 lines are and just hold down, I can drag my mouse to adjust the time length as well of the class. And if I don't need this class at all, or if I have an extra box here, I can just click the X in the corner and remove that instance from my timetable. But let's say I actually do want another math class for day B. I can just schedule it again by clicking the blue plus icon. And let's move that a little bit here. As well, I can move it between days. It's really easy to just move things around as you're going. And as well, you can also just draw classes directly on. So if I click my mouse onto this empty space and I can drag myself a little box, it will then pop up with this little window where I can adjust the times again and just select which class I want to insert here. So if I want to put my science class, I can add it there. If I need to change my time, I can adjust it from here as well. You'll notice that the start and end times, they default to 5-minute intervals. But I know one of the schools I taught at, it had offset times because the breaks were different. So you can just manually edit these if you would like to, just by changing the time in the window as well. So if my class goes from 9:27 to 10:29, then that's fine. I can just edit that there. And once I click save, it will insert that class here. So now what we are doing is we can continue to do this for our other classes. And aside from using the buttons to schedule them, we can also just draw them directly on here. I'm going to add my lunch here just to get a few more classes on here. Let's say lunch starts at 12:05, and I want that scheduled in both days. And I can continue to add more classes as I go along here. So let's insert our visual art as well. and start to have something that looks like a completed planner. Now, one of the things that I want to mention and highlight from here is that we can actually schedule some classes at the exact same time. So this can be very useful if you have multiple cohorts and you want to maybe have your in-class math class scheduled at the same time as your remote math class. So I'm going to add another instance here. And unfortunately, we don't currently support overlapping classes. But if you click schedule class and you give classes the exact same start and end time, it will allow you to schedule them into the same time frame. So I'm just going to add this to my day A. Let's say I have 2 different math classes here. Once I schedule, it can schedule them both within the same time frame. And you can actually do this for as many subjects as you need within the same time frame. If maybe you teach special subjects and you travel from class to class and you want them all scheduled within the same time frame, this can be very useful for that. Just make sure that the start and end times are the same, and you can stack as many as you like within the same time slot. So that's how you go through. You just set up your timetable. And if you're following along with me right now, I know that some of you probably have more than just a few classes. You can always come back to this page and add additional subjects or make other changes to your timetable. I'm fairly happy with how my timetable looks right now. And you can see it's just going to rotate between these 2 days throughout the school year. So the last thing that we're going to do on this page is click Save and Continue in the top right corner. And you do want to make sure that you save, because as soon as you make these changes, what it's going to do is save everything that you have set up here and use it to build your planner. So when you're doing this at the beginning of the year or the first time that you're setting up your semester, it's going to set it up for the entire year. And any changes that you make to your timetable after that will take effect from the day that you make them. So if you say get to February of this year and your schedule changes, you can always come back to your timetable, make those adjustments to your timetable, and then they will automatically apply for the rest of the school year. So that way you can keep changing your schedule as need be without affecting the lessons that you've already scheduled in your planner from previous dates. Setting up the timetable for the first time may take some effort, especially if you have a particularly complicated schedule. And I know how important it is to get it just right. So if that applies to you, I recommend that you do take the time now to get it set up the way that you want it, or even just leave this page open and just follow along with me as I move on. But I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Continue. And then we're going to be brought to our planner here. And as you can see, it has the classes scheduled for this day. It knows that it's a Tuesday, so it has it set up as a day B, as opposed to my earlier days in the schedule. And I have all of the classes that I set up for this day and this empty state where I can go in and start creating some lesson content. And then if we take a brief look at our week view, we can see that it has alternating days throughout the week, and it will have this for the entire school year that I have created. And now I just want to take some time and go over the feature for sharing lessons to your Google Classroom from within Planboard. So this is one of the paid features included in our Chalkgold subscription. So this new account that I've just set up does not have access to it at the moment. But if I click this gold upgrade button in the top right here, I can sign up for Chalkgold and have access to that and many other features, such as a lesson search feature, being able to see a history of all of your lesson edits, as well as sharing an entire day of lessons with anyone. There are even other Google Classroom features for our gradebook application, such as sharing assignments and sending grades to students throughout our Markboard app. But that's not something that we're going to dive into today. If any of this interests you, I recommend that you take a look at our Learn More link here when you get the chance. But for now, I'm just going to switch to my other account here that I already have set up. And I will show you how I can share my planned lessons to Google Classroom. So there are a number of sharing options available for free accounts. So just in general, a rule of thumb within Chalk, when you're looking to share any content, look in the top right corner of whatever it is that you are looking to share. So here, if I wanted to share this lesson, I can just click the share button here. If I instead go into my day view, and I want to share this entire day's worth of lesson, I can click the share button here. Or if I am looking for options that I can use to share my week, I can look for the share button in the top right of my entire week view. But essentially, just you're looking in the top right there. So let's have a just quick look here. As you can see here, we do have some print or PDF options. So you can export lessons as a PDF. As well, you can generate a link to your lessons. So for the public link, this is a link that you can share with anyone and they will be able to access your lesson. And they don't need a Chalk account. They just have to have the link and they can be taken to a page they can access from anywhere. So there are a number of different ways to share your content. As I mentioned earlier, some of these do come with the free version. So for example, if you're looking to share lessons with a substitute, you can quickly generate a PDF of all of your day's lessons and send that to your administrator. But some other options, those are included within our paid options as well. So let's say that I have this lesson here. It's perfect. It's everything I want it to be. Some Andre Jutras, great piece. And I want to take this and I want to share it with my students through their Google Classroom. So what I can do is I can either open the options menu here and click the classroom option. Or if I open the share window, then I can just navigate to the Google Classroom tab. Both will take you to the same place. And what you're doing is you're basically making a post to Google Classroom, and it's going to include the linked lesson from Planboard. So you can choose to either create an announcement on Google Classroom, you can start a discussion by asking a question, or you can attach the new the lesson to an assignment, or just add it as a material that your students can access. With each of these options, you'll see that the information that you can input changes a little bit, but we will have the option to make some more changes to this in the next steps. So don't worry, you will get to review all this information before you make it public for your students. So I'm going to start off by just making an announcement. And for the description, I'm just going to keep it simple and say, here is a link to today's lesson. Nothing fancy. When I move on to the next step, so if I click share here, if I'm not already signed into my Google Classroom, it will prompt me to sign in, but I'm already signed in. And here I can choose which class I want to share it with. So this is my music class. And now I have some more available options. I can choose which students I want to share it with if I don't want to post it for the whole class. And I can make any changes here. And as you can see, it has added this lesson as a material to this announcement. Once everything is ready, I can click the purple post button, or I can use this option in the menu to actually schedule this. So if I don't want this to post immediately, I want this to post later today or tomorrow, then I can have that option to schedule it as well. But for now, I'm just going to click post, and it has been posted to my class. So if I click the view button here, just going to take me to my Google Classroom. It's not very robust right now, but you can see our lesson today, not right now. And my students now have access to this. And when they click on the link, it's just going to open the lesson for them. And it will look the same way that I had edited it in my lesson editor. So it has the embedded video that students can access. It has the attachments that students can access. Right now I'm logged into an account, so it has some additional options for me to leave a comment, but this isn't necessary. You do not need a Chalk account to be able to access this shared content. So this is just here for my students to access as they need it. And one of the great things about this is that if this is actually not a perfect lesson, as I stated. It's not taking that saved state of this lesson and exporting it. It's actually a linked version of this lesson. So if I go back to my lesson and I make, let's say, a few changes, this isn't an if time. We're now definitely going to play through 3 folk miniatures. As soon as it saves, it will update the lesson automatically for my students. They'll see the most recent saved version of the lesson when they access the link. So I don't need to publish this again. I don't need to export it again or send it to the Google Classroom. It will update automatically. I'll do another quick example, as you can not only just share your lessons, but also any public link that you can generate from your account. So another option is to share your entire day's worth of lessons in Chalk Gold, or even your entire week. So I'll show you what that looks like. And again, we're going to go into the sharing options. I'm looking at my week view because I want to share my entire week. So I'll just click the share button there. And when I navigate to Google Classroom, I have the same options as I did before. This time I'll make an assignment just so you can have a look at some different options. And I'll say this week's lessons, and for the instructions, here is a link to all lessons for the week. And then I'm just going to go through and move on to the review stage. For now, I'm just going to select my drama class. But once I'm in the review stage, I can actually add this for multiple classes. So if I want to, because I'm posting the entire week and all lessons for the week, I want to share this to all of my available classes. And what this is going to do is it's going to, when students click on the link that I share with them, they'll have access to the week view as it appears to us right now. So they'll have access to all of this content, but it will be read only, of course. They won't be able to go in and edit your lessons, but they will be able to click on the subjects that they need and just have all of that lesson content available. So if I need to make any changes to these lessons, I can do it from within the account, and it will update for our students across all of our classes here. Just really, really easy. And students will be able to use this to find their classes on the list and see all of the tasks that we have planned with any resources that I shared with them. So this is a really useful feature because you can share not only a day's worth of classes. So if you want to leave your instructions for your students, or if you need a substitute for the day, that's really helpful there. Or if you teach homeroom and maybe you have all your classes in here in Planboard and you want that available for your students so they know the agenda for the week, then this is something that you have available to you. So once we assign it, it's going to stutter a little bit. Thank you. And then we can view how this looks here. It'll take me to my drama class. And where did it add it? Oh, I think I have to go back, sorry. I think I forgot to add it. Where's my lesson? Oh, whoops. But essentially, they'll have access to the entire week view, as I mentioned. So if you share this link, any student will be able to come in and open the lessons as they need to, be able to access all of that content, and not just the text, any videos that we have included, any standards that we've assigned, any attachments that we've attached to our lessons, all of that will be available for your students to use throughout the week. So that kind of brings us to the end of our presentation today. And I will be honest with you, I've pretty much just scratched the surface of what you can do, what you are capable of doing with Planboard. Hopefully I've piqued your interest if you haven't used it yet. And we can now answer any specific questions that you may have. So if you have any questions about Chalk, Planboard, or the Google Classroom integration, please feel free to post them in the Q&A in Zoom. Just gonna switch back here briefly. I want to be able to highlight the support options that we have available to you. So our live chat is available, as I mentioned, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday to Friday. Or if that's unavailable or outside of your appropriate time, you can reach out to us over email at support@chalk.com. And we also have support articles for all of our features available at help.chalk.com. Or you can access this through the question mark